All right, folks, one more time. I'm not happy I have to end it, but this is where we are. Welcome to the end of the Venture Brothers, and welcome to the end of the Not Funny Guys Presents Go Team Venture. We are on episode 42 of this little journey together, and we have finally reached our conclusion. We are at Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon Heart. Originally released July 21st, 2023. Written and by both co-creators, Jackson Public and Doc Hammer. Now, the synopsis on this one is very, very simple. So we have a nationwide manhunt. Basically, we're picking up right where the Safrax protocols ended. And so we are at the end of the whole situation with Hank running off. And so there's now a manhunt for him. OSI is looking for him. And this opens up a whole revelation of another organization we will call that goes by Arch, also operating. The Monarch is literally out for Dr. Venture's blood. He's trying to get back in on this. He's really pissed that he's been sidelined because they need his actual blood to find out their relationship before they can proceed letting him arch him. This imposing villain, Mantilla, reemerges to wreak havoc on the Ventures, the Guild, and even the Monarch's marriage. And then it takes all the friends basically coming together to sort of bring everything to a conclusion in a strange way. And then in the post-credit, we actually get a viewing of Rusty with an artificial uterus cooking the children, Hank and Dean. And he says to help her in his artificial room, meet the Venture Brothers. So we have a strange full circular moment that comes around here. So coming off my disappointment from the ending of season 7, the Safrax Protocol, this does mollify me a little bit as an ending, though like I said, I still wish there was more. So picking up the story, we're 3 days into Hank gone missing. OSI is on the case, but eventually they won't be because there'll be bigger fish to fry. They're doing a pre-dawn raid, which Rusty is complaining about, while he and Dean are on the carrier with hunter-gatherers. They find a homeless man in Queens, for which Rusty says nobody goes to Queens, wearing Hank's jacket, and he has Hank's phone. The man claims that Batman gave it to him, which is a play on the kind of Batman Begins thing. They do play on that whole idea that if you've ever seen Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, there is a kind of element of this going on here where Bruce Wayne tries to disappear for a while, where he gets off of the world. Oh, there's my dog barking in the background. She's mad. Somebody at the door, probably the mail. So there you go. Inside the sausage gets made. Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch, like I said, wants DNA from Rusty. They're trying to determine their relationship. And the Monarch is spying on all this with a drone. Apologize for my dog in the background there. Dean, of course, is panicking over all this, really bothering him. While Rusty is not bothered at all. Hank has done this before and then remembers that Hank did this before and then he went to the North Pole and ended up dead that time. Rusty is trying to launch his new product, which is like a helper version of Alexa. In fact, he calls it the Helper Pod. The pirate captain says they need this, otherwise they're going to go into bankruptcy and they have to jack the price up. And he tasks Billy and Pete with fixing it. Because apparently when it starts playing music and you say up, it actually lifts off the ground and starts hovering, creating its own electromagnetic field. Oops. Let's see, Monarch and Dr. Mr. Monarch does get spotted by his wife when she leaves the Ventech Tower. She's with him. He gets confronted. She spots Gary too. Makes him get in the car with her in the limo. They talking about the whole relationship situation and how they has to wait. She has to kick them out and they have to go take the subway because she has to attend an emergency guild meeting because of the explosion that drew OSI's attention. Turns out to be something committed by the group called Arch. We'll find out. When they are entering the subway, they run into Debbie. We don't know who Debbie is. It turns out it is Mantilla, who is apparently the Monarch's ex-girlfriend. She's in charge of this whole Arch one. 21 even gets her card. Guild is having to deal with this. OSI is having to deal with all this thing that's unlicensed because apparently Brick Frog went from being a level 1. Thank you, Cassie. Wonderful, honey. Level 1 villain. He quit the guild and now he has basically re-emerged with super grade technology, carrying out an attack on one of his arches. Dr. Z and Mantle debate the whole meaning of what a few or several is numerically. Funny, but they're taking it very seriously. Dean, of course, goes to the Order of the Triad, who are now based in New York City, to get which their sanctum looks a lot like Dr. Strange's. And he's there to get help from Dr. Orpheus. And they find out that apparently the building previously had a pile of pants that turned into a golem that the alchemist woke up by using some Hebrew he knew. Dean wants Orpheus's help to find Hank. He uncovers the note from the Saphrax protocol by peering into Dean's heart. Orpheus's hope conjures a vision of Hank's location. Hank, of course, is on a train talking about how the old Hank is dead. He hid his escape. Like I said, he was doing the whole Bruce Wayne running away thing. In fact, he was even in the Batman mask when he gave away the jacket. And on this train, originally he hopped on a boat to New York City, around New York City. He kept seeing Serena, so he hopped on a train like a hobo. And then he remembered he was rich. And so he got on the train legitimately. And he's basically heading back to Colorado to the old compound. Starts hallucinating versions of himself. The Hank co-detective, the Enrico Matassa, his Batman, the Russian Guyevich version of him. He talks about going to find a woman. Monarch and 21 actually meet up with Arch because he's mad with the guild. Mantilla was apparently the claim that he broke up with her because he thought she was sleeping with Dr. Venture. They scan the QR code. They go to a little meeting. Her minions basically show up and escort them in. Turns out they've got a whole organization secretly working under the radar, but there's more than what's going on here. Of course, OSI is cleaning things up when Guild shows up, and they decide to go on a joint venture with this. And then at one point, Red Death and Brock kind of get into like a face-off, and apparently Dr. Mrs. the Monarch and shortly debate on who would take who. And Brock is still pretty sure he'd win, because apparently Red Death is like 70 years old. Decide to work together. Red Death is on the phone. Took the phone on the Arch phones from a dead henchman, along with his hand, to get into the Arch files. Arch, meanwhile, is courting the Monarch. They've reached apparently 100,004 foes vanquished. They are a global organization. They've gone under the radar and out of detection for now from this time. Mantilla, Debbie, she wants to be called Deborah, calls the Monarch by his real first name, Malcolm, asks him what he needs, gets upgrade suits and equipment. Meanwhile, Orpheus and Jefferson Twilight are driving Dean cross-country to find Hank. They know where he is. He gets chided by Jefferson for sleeping with Serena. They stop the night in Chicago to stay in his old place of operation, which is basically like a weird kind of co-op WeWork place for basically weird vigilantes. There's even a guy who looks like he's doing a knockoff of The Fly, but he's turning into a cockroach. It's weird. Hank basically hitches a truck to the Venture compound in Colorado, starts having all kinds of old memories about the events that went down there, but basically memory lane. He remembers his little Coma Town incident with the Action Man, where he says, "We don't have a mom." And then he remembers that Action Man told him it was Bobby St. Simone. He runs into Dermot, still with the OSI, but apparently living in the area, watching the compound, and of course, helping himself to all the wreckage and technology he wants and selling it off, including to Ben from back of the Halloween special and all. Meanwhile, Rusty is planning to roll out the Helper Pod. They're setting up the lobby of Ventec Tower. Monarch, of course, sneaks out of bed. By the way, he also sends Billy and Pete home with one of it to actually fix it. Monarch sneaks out of bed. He and 21 test out all their new stuff in the upgraded layer, grappling hooks in their belts and all that fun stuff. They meet, and then they plan a raid on Ventec Tower. We meet Bobby St. Simone, voiced by the great Jane Lynch. She was making a film back in the day about a woman who went invisible. Hank and Dermot are watching this video on YouTube. Dermot opens up his safe. He has a signed copy of her to Rusty. This is when Ben shows up side. They call him Old Man Potter. Dermot's selling him stuff from the old compound. Hank realizes that he stole all this stuff. He has this stuff like hidden in a little safe. She's running a rescue shelter apparently nearby and a zoo for animals that were modified by villains. So like a recovery place. Meanwhile, Jefferson and the group face off against a bunch of Blackulas, the Blood Brothers, who come to find him. Orpheus saves the day. He unleashes the pant golem that he brought along. They get away, but Dean thinks he's been bit. It turns out he's not, but he starts having reactions like he's been bitten. He's slowly turning into a vampire. Monarch and 21, of course, go to Ventec Tower, use the laser cannon, infiltrate the building, set off the panic alarm, but then they're abandoned by their acolytes from Arch. Dr. Mrs. the Monarch is called a meeting with Red Death, Shoreleaf, and Brock, and apparently she's been set up. The evidence planted in the Arch information basically makes it look like she's the one who is playing the part of Mantilla. She jumps out the building in a panic, trying to get away from Shoreleaf and Brock, even though Shoreleaf yells at her run. And she gets saved by Red Death's horse, Daisy. Because Red Death is not fully convinced, but he's playing along. Meanwhile, the Monarch and 21 have obviously been double-crossed. They get confronted by hatreds. Their suits all of a sudden stop working. And so they come to the realization that Mantilla has manipulated them. Arch is now inside the Ventec and the helper pods, and they activate them, and the electromagnetic field of all of them actually end up generating, using music, an electromagnetic field that lifts the building off the ground. And they're playing It Takes Two by Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock. So Rusty helps. Rusty gets put in the panic room. He does not know that the building is lifted off. Brock calls in a panic because he's in an OSI vehicle looking at what's going on. He may be on the carrier. I forget. And of course tries to let him know. Pete and Billy trying to turn off the helper pod they have that's gone crazy too. Colonel Gentleman comes downstairs and shoots it. Says we don't bring our work home. Rusty calls Billy. The building is already launched though. Red Death knows that Dr. Mrs. the Monarch is empty. He's helping her learn about Mantilla, heading to see her. She's being chased by the OSI, and like I said, the Ventec Tower has taken off. Orpheus comes to find Dermot, asks him where Hank, tells him that Dean's going to see, tells him they're going to see their mom. This is where the whole thing he's learning he's been bit kind of thing. Go to Caring Hands, which is the little shelter down the road where Bobby St. Simone is. Hank's there. He's still hallucinating things. He gets into place. He gets jumped by a gorilla, but then he eventually beats Bobby. She knows who he is, younger than she expected. Meanwhile, the tower is now in orbit. The volume goes up, so does the field that they create, and it levitates them. Trying to get the tower to come back down. Rusty is in the X-12 waiting on Hatred because his plan is to just flee. Rusty finds 21 and the Monarch are stuck in the tower with them. OSA may have to shoot down the tower if it keep it from crashing in New York City. And Snoopy references Fantastic Four #6, comic book from 1962, and how Dr. Doom did something very similar, lifting the Baxter building, and they were saved by the help and the intervention of Namor. Great Marvel reference. Thank you, John Hodgman. Dr. Mrs. the Monarch is at Mantilla's place. There's a conspiracy board and all that fun stuff. She's obsessed with Dr. Mrs. the Monarch. Pierre's kind of jealous. Deborah tries to tell how this all happened. It was all organic. Daisy then's told to sit down. She's obsessed with Dr. Mrs. the Monarch, not the Monarch. She calls the Monarch the king of morons. Apparently, she really wants to team up with Dr. Mrs. the Monarch. Bobby, back with the zoo. Bobby tells the story of making movies when she ran to Jonas Sr., who apparently was working on a fake moon landing when they met, and how they were trying to get the whole invisible thing with the bikini, but he actually made it so she could really turn invisible. And she then slept with Jonas Sr., ran into Rusty on the way out. He was still just a kid, gave him a photo, signed. That's where the photo comes from. Then she became an OSI agent, but then kind of played like a double agent thing, because eventually she went over to the other side when she was doing her own little Dazzler event. So there's an X-Men reference. She met Force Majeure, the former sovereign of the guild, and in fact she even joined him and his guild. She was attracted to him, worked as kind of like a double agent, and even had a daughter. And that's where Debbie comes from. So she's the daughter of Force Majeure. Rusty offered to Rusty apparently later offered to help her when she went to help for him when she left, because apparently when the whole coup, when the other sovereign took command, they were left out in the cold, and so she ended up being Rusty to help her. He helped her fix some things, but she is not Hank and Dean's mom. Many versions of Hank and Dean have come to this same zoo asking questions of her before. Hank ends up falling back into Coma Town, where Orpheus shows up to rescue him. Rusty talks about how he hates the Monarch too when they're going down the elevator. Basically, didn't realize they were a thing. Don't want to believe they are related. The helper pods, they go to take them out, but the electromagnetic field is so strong it literally almost tears them all apart. They barely escape. Meanwhile, Orpheus goes into Coma Town with Jefferson Twilight's help. Orpheus is apparently dressed as Zed from Zodok, the Sean Connery film. Not Borat as Hank thinks. Hank and Dean tells Hank that Dean brought him to find him. Bobby tells Dean that she's not his mother. Debbie wants, of course, Sheila, Dr. Mrs. the Monarch, to join her. And there is no arch. It's all a massive, Ponzi's facade. Want to take over the guild. Daisy, the horse, Red Death's horse who's there, remembers her sitting on the table and references 16 Candles. She's doing a weird kind of single white female thing too. Debbie broke up with the Monarch, not because she slept with Rusty. She didn't. She simply got her mom's old invisibility powers and then gave Rusty her reproductive parts she didn't want. Which is so technically, I guess the implication here is she's technically the boy's quote unquote sort of mother. And that I think that's what Rusty was using to gestate the boys. But so Rusty's help to Bobby St. Brown was to give her powers to her daughter. And of course, there's the whole idea, the recognition that she is Madame Major, daughter of Force Major. Technically, the rightful sovereign, basically. She hated working at the zoo, so she left to basically do this. Claims she's not crazy. Offers to help bring the building back down. But the building loses gravity and then is now in a free fall. While trying to get out of the basement where they've crawled into, they run into apparently the old Voltron knockoff, Ventronic, that JJ built is there. That's their way out. Orpheus tells Hank to leave behind his personalities. Really time to grow up and say goodbye. Dean pulled into Coma Town as well. He's now dressed as Atreyu, so that was funny from Neverending Story. Hank saves him from the other personalities and escape back to the real world. Air raid sirens are going off nearby the zoo because, of course, the building is falling in the direction of actually where the old compound is. Apparently, that's where all things descend and crash. OSI Carrier is going to shoot them down, but then when they see Ventronic trying to save the tower, Hunter calls off the cannons and they lend hand firing harpoons, helping to land the building on the old compound. And literally they've come full circle. They're right back where they've started. The Monarch then accidentally knocks over the Jonas and Rusty statue. It falls on him, seriously wounding him. He has to get a whole blood transfusion. The reveal is that Dean is not a vampire. He just got nicked by the necklace. And Ben shows up to save the Monarch. The whole Dr. Mrs. the Monarch using some of Mantella's blood to go invisible, get into the guild records, set her up with the Peril Partnership so she can go to Canada. While apparently they also find the full DNA results, and watching Ward watch this whole thing. It's hilarious. They think it's a ghost. They're acting very much like Hank and Dean back in the day. It's a reference back to Career in Science. Rusty gives Malcolm a transfusion while everyone else is downstairs. Ben fixed him up, and they're not brothers. In fact, they are clones. They are the same person. The only difference is that the Malcolm has 2% of monkey blood. So radiant is the blood of the baboon's heart. Made Malcolm more aggressive. Dr. Mrs. Monarch comes in, like I said, goes invisible, comes in to see the Monarch while he's recovering. She knows the secret too, his whole life arching himself, and which he calls that basically like being a Greek myth. Ben gives Hank a watch that Jonas engraved with Latin that says "Choose your family," It's about family, not about blood. Dr. Mrs. the Monarch then at the end pranks Rusty by pulling down his pants while the Monarch claims he has arched him, falling over in pain before he demands an Uber. So, there we are. We have reached the end. All right, folks, you're going to see me in a different light here with a different angle on the camera, but that's because I took some time. I originally was going to create a video right after I finished Radiant as the Blood of the Baboon Heart to close out the Venture Brothers, but then I didn't like the way it turned out. It fizzled out really quickly. So what I have decided to do, so if you just watched my little recap analysis, hopefully you like, subscribe. We'll be moving on to Andor. I want to note that real quick because I did not do that at the end of the thing. We're moving on to Andor starting next week. But some final thoughts on the Venture Brothers I have decided to do rather than try to tag on a video here and make it any longer. What I'm going to do instead is I may do a couple little TikToks over on the Off the Reels Not Funny Guys channel where previews for this show come out. But I'm definitely going to write about it. So if you're interested in reading a little bit about it, I'm going to be putting out a Substack this Friday. That will be, March 21st, 2025. And what I'm going to do is kind of take a moment to sort of weave through some final thoughts and tag those on. But speaking of that, please follow along, and the information for where to locate that, my Substack, will be down and below, but you can contact me there. You can also contact me through other means, but we will also be digging in. If you're following the podcast, we're into the Rambo series now. We have First Blood is already up. We'll be coming out and following that all the way through its succession, so follow that along. I'll throw up some imagery here, of course, as well. But also, like I said, like and subscribe. We're going to keep this YouTube channel going. We're going to typically follow TV series is kind of the plan. So hopefully you'll get to see my rewatch of Andor, which will be my third time rewatching Andor. But that'll be coming starting next week. We'll continue the 3 days a week for that. But when we get done with that, we're going to go over to season 2. And then rather than coming out 3 times a week, we will go to a method of basically once a week on Wednesdays. And what that will be basically made up of is me and my co-host of the Not Funny Guys, Eric, posting about that and having our reaction and commentary to it. So one last time, go Team Venture. Say Not Funny Guys again.
Not funny guys again.
No, can you say Not Funny Guys?